There is a Batman movie where Batman is a literal monster who lives in the shadows, a movie where Batman is a flying demon bat, a movie where Batman is a mecha robot that can leap buildings, and is animated by an anime studio named Studio 4C, a studio that has animated animes like Berserk, Animatrix, Street Fighter, and countless other animes. But you probably never heard of this movie. This Batman movie is called Gotham Knights. No, not the game Gotham Knights, the movie Batman Gotham Knight. This movie Batman Gotham Knight came out in 2008, so it's been a long time since this movie came out. But what this movie is about is that this movie is composed of many short stories of many moments in Batman's career, but today I'll be ignoring most of them but one story out of the many stories in this movie, which just so happens to be the best one out of all of them. And this little short that shows up in the movie is called Have I Got a Story for You. What makes this story so great is that it starts off with a couple of kids meeting up at a skate park, telling each other stories about how they met Batman just before they met up together. But what is interesting about these stories that they're telling is that none of them saw Batman the same way. They all had different perspectives on what Batman could do and how he even looked like when they saw him, which is an idea that we don't get to see too often in Batman movies and even Batman TV shows. To see other people's perspectives on what Batman is and what they think Batman is something we only get glimpses of in movies and TV shows. Which is tragic because I've always thought a Batman horror movie where Batman is the villain and he's hunting down some villains would always be such an interesting story that they can tell. I think it can kind of be done like Alien, where instead of the alien hunting down people, it's Batman hunting down the villains. Which is such a horrifying idea if you really think about it. If you're getting hunted down by Batman, that would genuinely feel like a very horrifying situation. But in this 2008 movie, we really got to see how other people look at Batman. So the first story of this movie gets told by a kid with glasses who tells the story that he's walking on the dock and he sees Batman who's fighting this random goon that we've never seen before. But what makes it so different is that when he sees Batman fighting, he doesn't see a regular human. He doesn't see a man. He sees a shadow. A shadow that disappears and reappears without getting hit, without taking a single hit, but only delivering it. To him, he is a creature that lives in the shadows and only taking form when he wants to, delivering hits to the goon and reappearing when he wants to deliver another hit. And Batman on his own whim can disappear right back into the shadows whenever he wants to as well. And for the most part, this fight is very one-sided until the goon throws a smoke bomb for him to escape and swims away from the water because he knows he can't defeat Batman. But when the smoke clears, we get to see a closer look into what Batman looks like through the perspective of this kid's eyes. We see a creature with red eyes looking back at the boy, and then he looks away and goes back into his shadowy form and disappears. Which is amazing perspective to see Batman as, because we all know that Batman is always hidden in the shadows and uses them to his advantage and is so quick to dodge hits that to a normal person, he simply might just be a shadowy monster that is untouchable to any regular person. Which is something we very rarely see in the movies, like in the recent Batman movie when he uses the shadows as a way to be everywhere as a fear tactic. But this story perfectly explains how an average person would see Batman when he's disappearing into the shadows. But after the boy gives a story to the group, another kid in the group says that that's not how actually Batman looks like, and explains how she saw Batman that same day. She says that she saw an otherworldly creature flying through the air with giant bat wings that resembles a bat. But what we see is that Batman looks more closely to nightmare fuel than more looking like a bat. And this creature known as Batman is chasing down the same man from the other kid's story through the air and rips off this guy's jetpack and sends it flying miles away by throwing it in the air. And while the girl is telling the story, she says that Batman cuts the guy's head clean off, and the children react all surprised because they all know Batman doesn't kill, which is a great thing to add because even though people don't know how Batman looks like, everyone still knows Batman's morals, like the fact that he doesn't like to kill people. So it's refreshing to know that even though Batman is more of a mystery in this type of world, the general people still know what Batman stands for. At least everyone does, except for like Zack Snyder. Anyways, back to the story. The girl says that Batman cutting the guy's head off is not actually part of the story. She was just trying to add some, spice to the story. But she continues the story by saying they fight all the way to the coast, where we get this cool shot of Batman opening up his wings, which in real life would just be so terrifying to see. If I was that criminal, I would have been like GG's and started getting a 9 to 5 because maybe this crime life isn't right for me. Then they continue the fight and the criminal starts shooting at Batman, and Batman easily dodges all the shots, and then Batman tackles him into the water and the criminal swims away to the docks. While he's swimming away, Batman flies off to go chase him to finish the job. And this is where we realize that all the stories connected because this criminal is swimming to the docks, which leads into the first story that we heard, which is just pure cinema in my eyes, because this is amazing storytelling, showing us the stories so far are going in reverse order, which is this great storytelling in such a short story. So then the third kid out of the four kids tells his story on why Batman was chasing the guy throughout all of these guys' story. Finally gets to the point where we see how the story all started and why Batman was chasing the guy in the first place. So the kid starts off the story about him being on top of a building when all of a sudden a goon walks in and points a weapon at everyone to rob them. And if we get a closer look at this weapon, it looks like some Mega Man blasters, some sci-fi ray guns type of things. They do not look like actual weapons, and maybe they couldn't show real weapons, but we just saw them show Batman ripping a guy's clean head off, and we even see blood. So it kind of makes me wonder why this guy isn't holding actual guns. I don't know, maybe drawing the line on showing real weapons is much more of a harder line than someone's head getting clean ripped off. But I don't know, I'm not in the writer's room. I don't know why they went with this approach. But just before this criminal can rob them all, a helicopter shows up, and it's just not a helicopter that this guy should be worried about. It's what's inside of this helicopter, because a robot Batman drops down and leaves a crater just off of his impact on the floor of this building. This shows us how much this Batman suit weighs, and this is not something you should be messed with, because this Batman suit is a literal tank if it can leave a crater like that, which so far is the most realistic Batman we've seen, because there are many times where Batman wears a suit of armor like the one he does in Batman vs Superman. So far, this is the most realistic story that we've gotten yet. Or at least you would think it's the most realistic one, because then the goon points a gun at the innocent kid telling the story, but before he could shoot his Mega Man blasters at the kid, Batman turns his arm into a ray blaster and shoots his weapon right out of his hands. And then Batman proceeds to rush him down like a D1 linebacker. And for some reason, this goon tries fighting Batman like he stands a chance and does the most unnecessary flip like he's Miles Morales and tries to kick Batman, which of course he dodges. But if you really think about it, what happened if Batman didn't dodge this kick? Was he just going to break all of his bones? Because we just saw this Batman suit can leave a crater just off of the impact of it falling off a helicopter. So him kicking this 500 pounds of pure metal Batman suit would just result him in, breaking and shattering all of his legs. So we can see why this guy resorted to crime, because he is no Albert Einstein. He wasn't going to college to get his degree with this type of intellect. And then with one punch, Batman sends him flying through the air off the building, which if this guy didn't have a jetpack, he would have been splat on the ground and Batman would have just killed a regular man just off of his punch alone. So maybe Zack Snyder was right in that one podcast. But then we get Batman chasing after him by taking Hulk-like leaps off the building. Then he does another gigantic leap to the next building, and then so on and so on. Which is crazy now that we get a full picture of how the story started, of how Batman's chasing this guy through the town with a mech suit, to him flying through the air, to then fighting him on the dock, which is a pretty impressive feat for this random goon that we've never seen and we will never see again. Then we flash forward to the kids after they finish telling their stories, and everyone has different perspectives on the stories, but we see the fourth kid who never got to see Batman, and he feels like he's missing out that he didn't get to see Batman, and he didn't really get to have his own stories to tell. But just as the kid feels bad that he didn't get to see Batman, the window breaks as a man comes crashing through it. Then we see the real Batman step through the window, all beaten up, and we also get to see that at this point in the story, it's nighttime, which means that Batman has probably been chasing this guy majority of the day, from what it seems the morning from the first story that we've been told to the nighttime where we're at right now. We then see Batman come face to face with this goon as the goon throws another smoke bomb again, and through the smoke we see this goon pick up a shard of broken glass while Batman is tired and injured looking for the guy until he sneaks up behind him, and just before he stabs him, the kid who didn't meet Batman all day knocks out this goon with his skateboard. Then Batman looks at the kid and thanks the kid and heads off into the shadows, which is such a nice moment to add because throughout the stories Batman didn't speak once, but when he does, he gives thanks to a regular kid for helping him out, which just shows that Batman tries to be a hopeful figure in any way he can. And what's also amazing is that he's voiced by the amazing and the best Kevin Conroy, the GOAT of all Batman. Rip to my GOAT. But the cherry on top is that the kid who knocks out the goon is voiced by Scott Manville, which you might know as the voice of Robin from all the big versions of Robin in the animated universe, like Teen Titans Go and the original Teen Titans, which just adds to the moment because in my head canon is that this kid will eventually become the future Robin for this Batman, which I see this head canon as being very reasonable because it's not by coincidence that this guy was Robin, because the original Teen Titans was already airing at this time, and this show was made like 2 or 1 year later off of the original Teen Titans being aired. So it's very realistic that they got this guy in to be, still nod that this kid might be Robin because he is voiced by the Teen Titans Robin. But anyways, besides my headcanon, let's get back to the story. It ends with the other kid walking up to the kid asking him, what did you see and what did Batman really look like? And he ends off the story by giving a title drop and saying, have I got a story to tell you? Which is the title of the short story, which is just an amazing ending for the short story that I wish we got more of these type of stories of seeing people give their perspectives on what Batman looks like and seeing many variations of what Batman could possibly look like from all his encounters. But it's sad that we don't really get this type of animated stuff anymore, and it's sad that most people have never even seen this masterpiece, because when I was younger I used to watch this short story all the time and I always thought it was amazing from when I was a kid, and to rewatch it now, it still holds up now and still a timeless story that if you haven't watched, go watch. It's an amazing story. I can't recommend it highly enough. So click off this video and go watch it for yourself, because even if you listen to me talking about it, it's still amazing watching it on its own and seeing this amazing animation be put on screen, and me explaining it can only do so much. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you like this video, and I would really appreciate it if you subscribe. It would mean a lot. Only 1% of people are subscribed to me, 99% aren't, so don't be that 99% and be that 1%. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope to see you guys next time. Later, hater, and peace.